Hello guys, and welcome to a new Wargame commentary today by me, Vulcan. Today I am playing a 3v3 on Hammerhead. Now this is a map I don't play very often, but I have showcased for you before, I think while I was playing Pact. Today I'm playing NATO on this map, and I actually use a very different strategy to what I normally would, and that's again why I want to show it to you today. So basically what I didn't do that normally I do is use main battle tanks like these. I mean by like Leopard 2A1 or 2A4s and M1A1 Abrams, but in this game I actually didn't buy any. So you can see that it's a radically different strategy than I would normally use. Now my two teammates are on the left and I'm alone on my right. Basically I said that I would take Bravo. They said that they would go to Charlie and Delta, which basically was the plan. And I would try and cover Juliet as best I could, basically keep them from flanking us from Juliet into Delta and Bravo. And I do my job reasonably well throughout the battle. So anyway, I've started with two Sultans. One's to keep India at the beginning of the match, and the other is to send up to Bravo. I'm not too concerned about getting Juliet early on, so I basically just keep it to myself. Now these M113s and the Sangane are my little task force that I'm building up just to push up to Juliet to kind of fend off any units that he may put into Juliet. These Mardia VTSIs are reasonably good because they're fast. As you can see, they're 70 kilometers per hour. They don't have a great accuracy, but they're good, cheap units for dislodging enemy troops, and also they just put a presence there. The thing is with Wargame that a lot of people don't necessarily pick up on is that you can trick people. And for those of you who played Ruse, it's similar in that you can make small units look like big units by sort of placing them in the right areas. So for instance, my Fuchs, like here, I could maybe send up and hide them in this town here. Now if they bump into them at any point, they're going to wonder what the hell's in there. It could be anything, and therefore it scares them off, and it's sort of mind games in a way. Anyway, you can see here what I was talking about using different units. I've got a lot of ITOs. These are heavy ATGMs on basically jeeps. They only have like 4 missiles each, but they are very effective against taking out tanks. I have no tanks of my own here. You've got 12 units of Fuchs with Jaegers in, and 8 Vulcans. Now it's quite ironic that I use Vulcans, but yeah, basically good vehicles to keep up with the Fuchs. They do go 40 kilometers per hour slower than the Fuchs, actually 45 kilometers per hour slower. But I make sure to get the Vulcans and ITOs out in front before sending, I make sure to get the Vulcans out in front before I start sending the Fuchs. Now these Rolands are basically some missile AA to help with the Vulcans. I've got my Sultan with a couple of Chaparrals, which are 3 vet and a Hempt to basically resupply them with missiles. I've got Gazelle, which is zooming up the middle of the map to check for any rushes, and I've also got my little task force on the right heading to Juliet as soon as possible. So anyway, at this point I was basically going to set up a little defensive perimeter around Bravo with my Chaparrals, and the Vulcans and Fuchs were going to push right up to Delta as soon as possible. Now this guy said he was going to go to Delta over here, but I make sure to get there first with my Fuchs, just to make sure that if he's bringing anything heavy over here, he doesn't get caught out by ATGMs. And this is also what my Gazelle's doing here. Now what tricked me is that I didn't spot very much at the beginning of the game. You can see these Mi-24 VPs, which are heavy ATGM helicopters, but he's only got 2 of them. I'm not too concerned about what I'm pushing up to Juliet, so I basically just hide them in the bush and let them kind of go to Juliet. I'm not too concerned about holding that myself, so as long as they don't spot this rush up the middle, then it's all good for now. Now on the left, I spotted this quite early on, but he kind of gets cut off by Mi-8TVs, which are the Mi-8s but with rocket pods attached to the sides of them. But what I found quite clever is that he just pushes his chasseur for mass as quickly as possible up, and you can see it just decimates them at close range, because the Mi-8TVs are lightly armoured, really. They're basically transport helicopters, and they're not supposed to stand up to any kind of heavy punishment. Now my Fuchs have got to Delta very fine. Now I'm not sure what happened here. Now in this game, or in this map, Delta is kind of closer. It's a balanced map, but I think you can get to Delta faster from the NATO side. Anyway, I get my Fuchs and ITOs into this forest here as quickly as possible, and as my Vulcans follow up on the rear, they manage to take out these 2 recon units with the help of these Saracens. You can see just by the trails of the miniguns that are on these Vulcans, they just get absolutely destroyed. Now after he took down those VP or Mi-8Ts, you can see that he actually took out a lot more points than they're actually worth. Now that was because these Mi-8TVs actually had VPZU in them, which basically isn't too great. But he luckily managed to take them down a lot before he actually managed to drop them off. Anyway, here you can see my ITO managed to snipe a recon unit, and reinforcement artillery that he's brought in on the right forces me to push forwards with the rest of my units. Now these T-64s sit here for more or less the entire game, and I try and get reasonably close with these Marders, but unfortunately, because the T-64s are basically just better, my Marder VTSIs don't do too well. And my ATGM vehicles have already been destroyed, so there's no chance in taking out those T-64s. Anyway, my Stingers managed to snipe this Mi-2 on the right, and in the meantime I'm pushing up my Fuchs and Jaegers in the middle to deal with his Strelas and Faggots. Now, the Strelas are in no way matched against the Jaegers, because Strelas are anti-air and the Faggots are ATGM, so my Jaegers just go straight up and absolutely decimate their forces there. And in the meantime, he rushes in a load of Mi-24s, and it's absolutely insane. My Vulcans just rip the shit out of them. You can see here, I move one unit, keep one unit of Vulcans in cover, and the other unit of Vulcans come out and absolutely wreck their Mi-24As. Now, from this point of view, it was a completely stupid idea. Even if he had managed to get shots off at my Jaegers, there was no way that he was going to be able to take out 12 units of Jaegers with those amount of helicopters, because my Jaegers are in cover, and with the machine guns at close range, they're going to take down choppers very quickly. So there you can see he just absolutely wasted tons of points, 50 points per chopper, and there must have been at least 12 choppers there. So that's a pretty insane start to the game, and you can see we're already 1,000 points ahead because of it. Now he starts arting this area, so it kind of forces me to hurry up with getting my troops out of here, and therefore, because he's taken his command vehicle out of Foxtrot, as he's realised how many units I have here, I know it's undefended. So basically, taking advantage of the situation, I get away from this arty by pushing into Foxtrot, not allowing them to get any points from that place. Now on the right here, I still have my Stingers, and they remain there for the entire rest of the game. This Gazelle keeps an eye out for the flanking manoeuvres from Juliet, if they do any. And as you can see, my Fuchs and Vulcans and ITOs all safely just move through Foxtrot like there's nothing there. On the left, in the meantime, my teammates have secured this flank, basically having small skirmishes with vehicles and taking care of any small forces that they push at them. And as you can see, forces somebody to surrender. Now these Fuchs over here are kind of a test. They're rushing up to hotel to see if I can snipe his command vehicle there and see how well it is defended. These Fuchs are heading up to a similar position, but kind of a bit delayed because I wasn't sure if I should sacrifice all my forces in hotel just in case it's well defended. Now if I was going to do that, I may as well bring my Vulcans up as well because these Fuchs and Jaegers are going to get absolutely destroyed by helicopters if they don't have anti-air support. Now seeing there's these 262s, my ITOs are quickly driving up to position on this hill here, which ultimately reveals a ton of tanks and anti-air. And just this game completely just amazed me. He's using cheap tanks, T62s, they cost 20 each, and these are also cheap anti-air vehicles. However, my ITOs have a field day sniping them with their ATGMs. In the meantime, I send up my Fuchs and Jaegers to attack these anti-aircraft. I probably shouldn't have sent my Fuchs in first, knowing that it was there, but it gave my Jaegers a good chance to basically destroy these anti-air. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't destroy that UAZ that was just spotted there. I didn't actually see it in the game, unfortunately, so during the game I never spotted it, and therefore my Jaegers never see it again, because he doesn't move it, but I just never spot it afterwards. Anyway, you can see my second lot of ITOs have finally got in position and take care of a couple more tanks, while my Jaegers are still firing rockets at the ZSUs. Now I bring up my Vulcans to basically just do some damage and stun and panic these T62s, while one of my teammates brings across some AA-20 Cobras which have ATGMs on them. Now he is being shot at by AA, and there is this AA on the left that's there taking shots at him. However, he doesn't decide to pull them back. Anyway, I decide with the ammo gone on my ITOs and the Vulcans not going to be able to hold their own against T62s, I pull back the Vulcans and the ITOs back to the forest and leave my Jaegers here to basically just poke at their troops, and the Jaegers here, which don't have any more APCs, to just defend the roads into Foxtrot. So up there, that was a very successful skirmish, and I decide to try and check out what's in Juliet, because it's been too easy to push up the middle at the moment, and even though we've had these battles with massive amounts of helicopters and tanks and anti-air, there must be something that he's hiding. So I moved this Gazelle more over to the right just to get a better view, but in the meantime I brought in a couple of Pumas to basically resupply and refuel all these vehicles that I brought up. Now in the meantime, on the left you can see these reinforcements that I bring in. I don't realise at the time that this road is the road that they're going to use to get to be reinforcements. So this is when I realised when they first attacked me, and you can see they take out two Fuchs very easily. But what I decide to do instead of keep going is I turn them round, because they have T-64s there, but they also had 3 Books. Now Books are worth a lot on their own, and you can see that my Jaegers have the perfect flank on them and just run up and snipe a couple in the back. They absolutely just get annihilated by my troops. In the meantime, over here you can see we're going for a massive infantry battle this time instead of a helicopter battle, and it's just mental. My Jaegers managed to survive for a reasonably long time against the shred of fire from the Moto Strelki, but luckily my friend has actually brought up some starships and started to fire on them, but unfortunately they get both taken out by some ATGM vehicles that are brought in as reinforcements. Now over here the UAZ for Echo has been spotted, and these AH-1E Cobras come back from the right side of the map and take care of that. In the meantime, my Jaegers are doing absolutely fine, haven't lost a single man, and are heading back to take out these Sturms, which are ATGM vehicles. Now this guy's AMX-30s managed to take them out before I do. However, these Jaegers just are an absolute annoyance for these T-64Bs, and eventually both of them get destroyed with the help of my allies. So yeah, you can see, just this is why I wanted to show you this battle, because these epic skirmishes of units which weren't necessarily the right choices for battles just got annihilated, and it was just insane. It was just so cool to watch at the time, just knowing that I had an absolute advantage. Now my Pumas easily use up all of their supplies and I fly them back to base, and in the meantime I've brought in another couple of AMX Alpha 1s to help me with dislodging the enemy from their positions in Juliet, which I'm not too sure still about what's there. Now these throughout the battle basically just pepper the enemy wherever I need them. I basically use a group macro to basically point and click where I want them to fire throughout the battle. That's why you see these random shells popping in every now and then. Now here you can see that these Vulcans come across some APCs, which he's basically rushing towards me to take care of my Vulcans and whatever else is in this bush. What he doesn't realise is the pure amount of Vulcans I actually have there, and because their miniguns are so powerful against light vehicles, they get routed and ultimately destroyed by the intense fire. Now Vulcans are seriously awesome unit in Wargame, but they're very underrated. Up here you can see the my ally has actually found another command vehicle and sniped that with his AH-1E Cobras. And now all we're left with is the command vehicle in Juliet, and you can see just how my allies react. They send all of their units towards Juliet for a final push into that area. Now with my allies struggling against these masses of groups of BTRs which dropped off the motor Stelky that were having a massive skirmish earlier, I decided to push over my Vulcans to try and give them a hand, but they've already brought in 2 Apaches and some Chieftain 5s, which easily take them out. Now unfortunately for my ally, his AH-1E Cobras finally get shot down by a massive group of infantry, and my Vulcans just basically sit there waiting for the BTRs to get close enough and then just absolutely annihilate them. Now at this point we're desperately trying to find the last command vehicle, and there was a little argument between players that they probably shouldn't be sacrificing units, but because we knew that this was pretty much the last area in which they could have a command vehicle, my ally sends in some random Gazelle cannons to basically find the command vehicle, but doesn't nonetheless. So we're kind of in a bit of a predicament. We don't know where it is. I'm trying to arty them, and in the meanwhile they're just bringing in constant reinforcements. Anyway, with all these BTRs coming up the road, my Vulcans and Itos have a nice time taking care of all of that, and my Stingers just remain here the whole time, just basically poking at the enemy, not doing much damage at all really to the APCs, and they just kind of ignore them as my ally manages to push his Leopard 2A1s and Bradleys and Rolands and Vice Patterns to Juliet. Now I bring up a look to ground recon, but I don't realise he has T-64Bs here, So that unfortunately just dies because there's not much you can do against T-64Bs. They are reasonably good tanks. They have a decent ATGM, 6 front armour, which is okay, but lacking side armour. And their main gun's reasonably accurate with a decent AP power. The ATGM's just a bonus really, but you don't buy them for the ATGMs anyway. They're just good defensive tanks. Now he starts to push forwards here with his rise patterns, and these T-62s over here, panicked by my Vulcans, just rout for the rest of the game. Now what I'm trying to do at this point is RT his anti-air, because basically what I don't want is to send in any more helicopters, or my allies send in any more helicopters and just continuously lose points towards them. Now even though we are winning by 2,000 or 3,000 points, we don't want to be wasting points anyway. It's just a bad habit. So I try and take them out, but unfortunately they move to a different area. So anyway, his AMX-30Bs are starting to arrive now, and the good thing about AMX-30Bs is they're very fast tanks and they're good at flanking. And what this guy does well, even though he loses an AMX-30B early on, is that he flanks his enemy. Now the T-64Bs continue to face their armour towards these AMX-30Bs here. But these AMX-30Bs have side armour shots onto the T-64s, and therefore T-64s get easily annihilated by what are normally very weak shots from the AMX-30Bs. Now we're trying to take out these anti-air, as you can see, and my ally has brought up AML 460s, which are mortar carriers, to also help with taking out them. I bring up a couple of patterns, but the biggest move of the game for me was moving this gazelle up, basically while these Tunguskas were panicked, to eventually spot where exactly his command vehicle was. Now the big group of infantry up on the left is not really doing much, so I just decided to leave that, but I spot his command vehicle, mark it pretty much instantly, and unfortunately my gazelle doesn't get away before it gets shot down by a Tunguska, but it's done its job. It's spotted basically what it needed to. These patterns, unfortunately one gets destroyed, but this pattern here manages to take out the T-64B that the AMX-30Bs didn't. Now knowing exactly where his command vehicle is, I pretty much just get my 4 AMX Alpha 1s to target that area until eventually we reach the end of the game. And with the destruction of that command vehicle, that's it. We're done. And it was a crazy game. Now, I'm not sure. This was a total destruction game, so we had to just defeat all of their command vehicles to win the game. And I don't normally play total destruction, but it was a 3v3 and I was basically doing it for fun. But it turned out so cool. Like those battles with the helicopters, and then all of a sudden lots of tanks and anti-air, and then lots of infantry, just massive infantry battle. It was crazy, and using that strategy that I did, even though it was pretty much just for fun at the time, seemed to work out perfectly for whatever they threw at me. And although it sounds kind of cheesy, the Vulcans were probably my best pick for that battle. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you maybe learnt something from it. Definitely don't overlook Vulcans. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.